Hello and welcome to the Pitstop Power Hour presented by Race 92, where we bring you up to speed on everything that is anything in the motorsports universe. What's up, guys? How was the weekend?
I don't know about you. I'm a little tired.
I am too, if told by the sunglasses, if you're watching this on YouTube. It was a fun weekend.
Did you get much sleep?
No.
Did you get any sleep?
No, it was a 24-hour race. You don't sleep. You have to watch the whole thing, Aaron.
Really?
And that does remind me. So to my right is your co-host, Calvin Veen. To my left is your other co-host, the one, the only, Aaron McAtee. Excuse me. And I am your host, Jacob Smith.
There we go.
So this weekend was a big weekend, guys.
Yeah, it was
Big snowstorm.
Well, yeah, here in
Big
Indiana,
snowstorm.
big snowstorm.
across the Midwest, and it's officially race season now.
Officially.
We have race cars on track.
Which is pretty awesome. We also had a Supercross this weekend, too.
Yeah, but who cares about that?
Yeah.
I kind of care.
Okay.
Just a little bit. I kind of care.
Well, let's get that over with.
Yeah, why don't you run across your Supercross results?
So, yeah, let's go ahead and some quick news from the week. So we had the first of 3 Indianapolis Supercross rounds this past Saturday. It was nothing short of spectacular, guys. Honestly. If you needed a break from the endurance car racing that you saw at Daytona, the Indianapolis Supercross delivered. It was a great race.
Oh, hold on, I have a question. You say you watched the full 24 hours. How did you watch the Supercross? Because that was during the race.
It's called 2 TVs, Aaron. 2 TVs.
I don't think the human brain can focus the two things at the same time.
You kind of have to jump back and forth, Aaron.
So really, he only was focusing on about 22 hours of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of racing going on this past weekend, Aaron. Sometimes you just Sometimes you just have to multitask. So, anyways, in the 450 class, Ken Roczen wins. It's pretty awesome because that's the 4th winner in 4 races.
It looked like a pretty emotional victory for him, too, from what I could see on just the social media and on the videos they posted of it.
When was the last time he won a race? Before this past weekend?
Last year, 2020.
He's been pretty close a couple times this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's always been pretty close, but he never quite had it. But from a fan perspective also, 4th winner in 4 races, that's pretty significant. That just goes to show how stacked the 450 class is. And Colt Nichols, in the 250 class, gets his 2nd win. So I think things are starting to kind of line up as far as who's who in the 250 class, at least 250 East. But the 450 class, I don't know what's going to happen. Seriously, guys, it's neck and neck. 4 rounds in, I don't know who's going to win this championship. It's crazy.
Well, it's still early, so we'll see what happens.
So that's all, guys. That's all the news I have on the Supercross season going so far. Do you guys have any other news for us?
A couple small tidbits. Pierre Gasly of the AlphaTauri Formula One team tested positive for COVID, making him the 6th Formula One driver in the last year to catch it. So out of the 20 or so that we experienced, that's a pretty high percentage. So hopefully all is well. He gets better soon, gets healthy, time for the season. Other news, Denny Hamlin has signed a multi-year extension with Joe Gibbs Racing, continuing on in his now classic FedEx sponsorship car. And he's going for, 3 straight Daytona 500 wins.
I think he'll... I mean, Denny Hamlin's like the Daytona 500 guy at this point.
I'm still really surprised. He's part owner of a team now, and I'm just really surprised that he's owns his own team, and he is part of Joe Gibbs Racing still.
He's competing against his own team.
Yeah, but are they getting help from Joe Gibbs?
I would assume so. I think
right.
Gibbs is providing maybe the engines and some other technical resources for that program. So it'd be nice to see, and I think he'll be the first driver to win three Daytona 500s in a row if he can make it happen this year.
Cool. So is he going to be your favorite to win the Daytona 500 this year?
I mean, his track record for the last couple of years is pretty good.
I would probably agree with that. I would have to say this is going to have to be another segment on when we get closer to the Daytona 500, but looking up to it, I would say yes.
He's definitely a good pick for sure. Can't go wrong with Denny Hamlin. How many Daytona 500s has he won?
I can tell you for sure he's got the last two, but you're going to really stretch me if I go beyond that.
We can ask Siri.
Go ahead, Aaron. Ask Siri.
Or why don't we just let the fact checkers in the comments tell us?
Because I know he's won more than two.
Yeah.
How many Daytona 500s has Denny Hamlin won? It says 44. That's not right.
I know that number's not right, but so
44 Cup races.
Can we just assume he's won between 2 and 44 Daytona 500?
Yep.
Is that a good?
Yeah, I think I can agree to that.
Okay.
We'll get into it as we break into the Daytona 500.
Yep.
An episode or two from now.
Certainly that'll be coming up here very soon.
Before you know it.
A little bit of IndyCar news, nothing announced yet, but the Dale Coyne team has announced a partnership with Rick Ware Racing for one full-time entry and then one part-time entry, I believe, is on the docket.
Is there any rumors for drivers yet?
The common rumor is Cody Ware, son of Rick Ware, and Roman Grosjean in some fashion, but nothing has been announced. And honestly, by the time the podcast is out, there should be an announcement from what I understand.
I thought the Cody Ware rumor was disproved.
He was testing for them at Sebring, so that would lend a little bit more credibility to him being in a car.
And Sebring, they're testing the Sebring, I think, this week.
Yep.
So the week of the 1st, February 1st.
Cody Ware does have a full IMSA schedule already on his calendar, so he may be a good choice for that part-time car. Or what deal with Grosjean?
And continue, please.
No, that's about all I had. Go ahead.
I did see our good friend David Land on YouTube, is in Sebring, and he posted that Oliver Askew is testing a Andretti Autosport car.
That is interesting. Do you think that is for the number 98, kind of in a part?
That's what I was wondering.
Marco?
But I thought I heard them say that they weren't going to run that car all year.
I've heard rumors both ways where they might have some sponsorship commitments, or they're also open to a 6th car for the 500. So,
Well, can I interrupt here?
Yeah.
If the sponsorship money is there, they're going to run that car full time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Whether it's Marco in the seat or Askew or anybody else.
Or Jimmy Kite.
That'd be cool. I'd be all for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is one of our neighbors here. Owns a business up in Brownsburg.
If anyone has any sponsorship for Jimmy Kite, let us know. We can let him know, maybe.
Yeah, you got his number on speed dial there?
I don't, but I'm sure we can find him if he's your neighbor.
All right, before things get too creepy, what do you say we jump into the big news for the week?
So there's this thing that happened this past weekend. It was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, Jacob, what's shaking?
The 24 hours of Daytona was shaken. Hence why I'm kind of a little under the weather this Monday. It's a great race, honestly.
It's fantastic.
It was a great race.
I couldn't turn it off. From flag to flag.
I think it's safe to say
it was a great race.
I think it's safe to say the finish has not disappointed the past couple of years.
No.
Absolutely not. And can I quickly rub it in? My call from last week's podcast of who was going to win the race. Who won the race, Calvin?
I do believe the Corvettes won in the GT Le Mans class.
Good for them. Who won in the Daytona prototype class?
Well, LMP3. You know who won in LMP3?
Yeah, Spencer Piggott and Oliver Askew and their team.
That's no surprise there.
And then LMP2, which is also a prototype team, Aaron Motorsports won with Dwight Merriman, Kyle Tilley, Ryan Dalzell, and Paul
Dalzell, I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys saw that car. That was a very cool fan-designed livery on there. So looked like it was colored in crayon. So
you know what's even cooler? The GTD car I mean, GTD class,
Won by
the new team of Windward Racing won.
Mercedes.
Yeah. And they were in Michelin Cup last.
That was completely unexpected.
Yeah.
It was their first race in the WeatherTech Series, first endurance race. They'd run in the Michelin Pilot Series, as Aaron said, and they upgraded this year, and they're off to a strong start.
The only reason
I'd
why
say so.
I remember them is because when I went to Daytona like 2 or 3 years ago, they were in the Pilot Challenge, and they were passing out these hats for free, these really nice Mercedes hats. So smart marketing move because now I remember them,
Free stuff is always a way to make me remember somebody.
Yep.
especially free hats.
But I think you guys are putting something off here.
Yeah, we probably should talk about the strong showing of the number 48 team with Jimmy Johnson, Kamui Kobayashi, Mike Rockefeller, Simon Pagano. They had a very phenomenal race for kind of a hodgepodge team put together at the last minute, it felt like. And
I think what Jacob's
I
really
feel like
trying
you're really
to say.
putting something off here.
Yeah, the Cinderella story the Ganassi team did. I mean, how many times did they end up in the pits with problems?
they had, 2 tire failures, including
Yeah.
one 8 minutes to go. So
I think there's one more team that you guys are excluding from
Yeah,
this
what was the
conversation.
WeatherTech GT car that spun out of the first lap?
yeah, got rear-ended by somebody, missed the shift or something, and jumped the start.
I think there's another one.
I did
There's
wanna
another car. I'm wearing a T-shirt for this team.
I did want
for
to
this
comment on
episode.
the.
Well, Scott Dixon did not drive for that team, so I think that's
This was
There's
last
a
year's
problem
shirt,
there.
but I still wanted to show my support here.
I wanted to comment on the number 5 JDC Miller Mustang sampling car because they were the real challenge for Ganassi at the start of the race until they got attacked by another car.
okay. So what Jacob's really saying is he's wearing a Scott Dixon shirt to show his support for your pick.
Nope.
Thanks, Jacob.
This is an old shirt,
It says Scott Dixon on it.
but
It says
because
Kamui Kobayashi. Is it a number 48 team you're cheering for here?
Yeah.
No, I'm rooting for the Konica Minolta Acura team this year. This shirt happens to be a year old because of shipping and how internet sales work. I couldn't get one in time for this episode, so I'm going to wear my old shirt from last year.
Boy, it'd be a little cocky if they had a winter shirt ready for the day after the race, wouldn't it?
They should have, because
Well, I'm pretty sure
that's
they
exactly what happened.
they pre-make a lot
Here.
of like for the Super Bowl. Obviously, they have to make winning shirts for both teams because they're not going to be able to print it
That works for the
fast.
Super Bowl. When you got 50 cars, how are you supposed to make that happen?
Really, though, you have 3 or 4 cars for Daytona.
You go with a pre-order and
Yeah.
don't make any until it's time.
I think we're kind of dancing around a pretty strong subject here of
All right.
who won the 24 Hours of Daytona overall.
All right, I will concede. Congratulations to Wayne Taylor Racing on their 3rd straight victory in the Daytona
Okay.
24.
Let me go back to something I said last week. Who did I pick?
Not the winner.
No. Hold on. I picked number 31. But what did I say? I said if I could have picked a number 10 car, I would have. But I was told I couldn't. So there you go.
Oh, so you're going to be against me too?
Yeah, because I picked a team.
How'd your team do?
Number 10 won. I said I would have picked that team.
On the record, you did not pick
Yeah,
number 10.
number 31 didn't do that good. They were in the race.
Not at the
No,
end.
I was the one that picked
They
the
were
winner.
in the race.
You guys didn't think that they could
Technically
do
speaking,
a three-peat.
They were in the race.
I called it. They did a three-peat.
Yeah,
With a different manufacturer, different group of drivers. They pulled it off.
Jacob, I accept
because
you
it's
win.
Wayne Taylor Racing.
Me and Jacob both called it. Thank
they
you
are
very
the
much.
best.
No. I accept Jacob's winning here. I do not accept Aaron claiming victory on this one.
I would have picked it, and I was told I couldn't. So
I mean, yeah, but what fun is it if we all pick the same team to win?
Oh,
This
so
right
you
here?
guys would have picked the same car as I would have?
I mean, if you're going to bet on somebody, the Wayne Taylor team is an easy choice. You picked first. I picked second. Aaron was left to pick from the rest, chose poorly, and now he's mad.
no.
Aaron should have picked the Mazda car because they had a pretty strong showing.
The 48 car finished second, too. Like, there's other choices here.
Yeah. So that was just a bad pick, Aaron. You had multiple choices that could have done better.
I couldn't pick Ganassi, and I couldn't pick Wayne Taylor. So who else would I have picked? Okay, the 48
car.
I
The
didn't
Mazda?
expect them to be that strong.
The Mazda, the JDC car. Yeah, but the car you picked, the Chase Elliott even said he didn't do.
The Welland Engineering car.
Yeah, I mean, props to them for trying, but even Chase Elliott said he did not deliver the way he wanted to, and he was disappointed. So Wayne Taylor wins. Jacob wins our prediction for this one.
Boom!
We'll get you on the next one. Don't worry.
So I'm basically, on this podcast, the way I'm feeling right now, even despite, I am winning everything on this podcast. I am winning the predictions, and I'm winning the pit stop challenge, undefeated. I just want to make that a point, guys.
Well, you can't make that a point to me because I'm not included in any of that.
You were included on the driver picks or team picks for the Daytona 24.
That, but you can't say anything about the pit stop challenge because I'm the one making the questions.
So I'm going to direct that towards you, Calvin. You got
Thank
to
you.
step up your game, dude.
Danica will help me through one of these days.
I don't know if it will.
So back to the matter at hand here, the Daytona 24. Why don't we? And we kind of teased a lot of the notes here, but maybe go through a little bit more detail. So it's the first win for Elio Castroneves, first win for Alex Rossi. Two phenomenal drivers in their own rights.
Only thing I was disappointed about is Elio did not climb a fence.
You're right.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
There's not many fences near that area.
He could have found one. He climbed a fence at St. Pete. He could have
should have
climbed.
found. Yeah, he should
Yeah.
have found a fence.
You're right. It might have had to do with the fact that he wasn't in the car for that last stint, though, too.
He still could have sprinted out into the track.
Yeah, that would have been
like a madman. Just
He was very excited. I'm surprised he didn't do that.
climb the fence.
That one, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched that final battle. There were a couple great battles between Ganassi and Wayne Taylor throughout the race. With about 5.5 hours to go, I noticed one notable battle between Alex Rossi, Kevin Magnussen, trading the lead back and forth. I know going through the bus stop, Magnussen took the lead. Rossi got him back because Magnussen ran wide. Great battle. And then that last stint with, was it Ranger Van de Zander? Jumped in the car, chasing down the Wayne Taylor car.
Yeah, if only they had one more hour.
It wasn't even one more hour. If that tire would have held up for 8 more minutes, they would have had him.
That tire did the same thing like an hour before, right?
They had
So there was something loose on the bodywork that was causing it to puncture, I would think.
They had 2 right rear tire failures, which could be something on the bodywork causing an issue,
or setup.
or
right?
a bad choice on the team setup, running too low of an air pressure, too high of an air pressure, wrong air pressure, caused it to fail under the load from the banking. So, yep. I mean, great fight. I wish we could have seen those last 8 minutes go to the end. Let the team win it on merit instead of having it handed to them there.
Oh, handed to them. Those are some fighting words, Calvin. Wayne Taylor, they had to be there for 24 strong hours.
But in Calvin's defense, Wayne Taylor Racing has won this race the past, 3 years, 4
3 years
years?
in a row now.
A three-peat.
So they are very comfortable.
Not to mention like all the
Hold
other
on.
previous years that they've won this
So
thing.
they are very comfortable fielding an LMP1 car. This is the first year Ganassi has ever fielded an LMP1 car, and look what they were able to do.
It's not the first year. Ganassi, I mean, back when it was the Trans Am Series, Ganassi was...
LMP1, I said.
It's the first in this current era,
Yeah.
for sure. But
So next year, I think you
this
have
is
something to
also,
worry about.
I also want to say that Wayne Taylor, this was their first year with the Acura. So, I mean,
I
they
know,
pulled
but
it off. They did it.
Ganassi
They won.
went from the
And I
Ford
called
GT to LMP1 car. That's a big difference.
after a year off, too.
Yeah.
So, yep, I mean, I will give it to you. Wayne Taylor won. They did a great job. You can't take that away from them no matter what. There were some phenomenal driving on the part of all 4 drivers on that car to get them there and be there at the end.
So, yeah, I mean, I think our biggest takeaway from this whole race is from start to finish, this race was electric. I mean, it was insane. Like, seriously, there was never, the entire 24 hours, there was never a dull moment
Yeah.
in any of the classes.
You know the dull moment for me was that gap in the TV coverage where they decided to play the Supercross instead of the 24.
Oh, shut the hell up, Calvin. You know that Supercross was a great halftime show.
It wasn't even halftime; it was prime time.
This isn't NFL, remember, Jacob?
And I will say NBC did a great job on the coverage. I think we had 2 hours on both ends to start and end the race on big NBC. We were on NBC Sports almost nonstop, except for Jacob's Supercross and a 3-hour gap from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., which was a good time for me to take a nap anyway. So props to NBC for great coverage. I think those are things to remember when we talk about those. Like last week, we talked about possibly going to Peacock and moving off of NBC Sports and what changes are happening. The fact that they are such a good partner for racing still, I think that needs to be remembered as we go forward.
Mm-hmm.
So props there.
Absolutely. So given all the news that's going on, NBC Sports, thank you. It's from us race fans. Thank you for keeping us posted on what's going on.
Say the chaos in this race started right away. That first lap, the start, the GT classes, when one car took one of the leaders out.
Yeah, it looked very similar to the start of the 1982 Indianapolis 500, where Kevin Cogan somehow just kind of...
Coogan.
Well, one person whom we all know referred to him as such, but yeah, that was weird. Looking closer at the tape, so that car got rear-ended.
Yes.
Like, why?
Punted off the track and taken out of contention, essentially. Like, can you imagine not even a minute into a 24-hour race and your day is done? That's heartbreaking before it even starts.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I would. If I was in that car, if I was part of that team, I would be throwing up some fists after that. If your race is over before it even began, yeah. You know I'm going to be coming for someone.
I guess I'll put it that way. What's worse, losing the race in the first minute, getting to pack up early and go home, or running like the Ganassi team did to be that close at the end and fail with 8 minutes to go, having done all that work for essentially nothing?
That's a tough one, Calvin.
It really depends on if it was something that the driver could have or could not have controlled.
Both cases, these were beyond driver control.
And at that point, it's just fate, and you can't really control it.
Yeah, but if it's me and I got a weekend in Florida, I'd rather fate take me out early so I can just go to the beach and forget about it instead of
why not?
Have to pack up and suffer for 24 hours and no sleep.
It won't hurt as much as if you went through 23 hours and then something happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Still feel terrible for the team, though. It's all that prep work, all that time, preparation for somebody else to throw it away for you.
Either of those situations equally suck. Let's be honest. I don't know. I don't know if I could pick one or the other, because one, like the late one, like if you crash out at the end of the race, at least you were in it
and you knew what you could do.
Yeah. Whereas if you crashed before,
you have no idea what you left
there's
it on
always
the table.
There's always the what ifs.
Yep.
Always what ifs.
So I think for me personally, I think I'd rather crash out at the end. Say like, hey, we gave it a valiant effort. We did our best.
Went down fighting.
We went down fighting.
Say another fun, if I call it fun story, the Corvette team finished first and second. The winning car driven by Jordan Taylor and his teammates, one of the other drivers, Antonio Garcia, was sidelined halfway through the race with a positive COVID test.
How does that work?
They had his COVID test results came back during the race after he had driven, and they had to park him. He could not compete in the car. So
I did not realize this.
Effectively, they became a two-man team toward the end of the race.
Just like the old days, like in the 60s.
So, it's a fun little bit of trivia.
All right, so now it's time for this week's Hot Take. The Hot Take is where we dive deep into a subject and debate it. kind of like debate club back in school. Sometimes it's a hypothetical what if scenario. Other times it's pertinent to the real world. Let's go ahead and get into this week's hot take.
Okay.
So, as I was alluding to earlier, we were watching the 24 Hours of Daytona, and as I said, I was thinking, can the drivers of yesteryear, would they be equally, if not more competitive in today's cars against today's modern drivers? And then the other way around, would today's drivers be just as competitive in cars from the 60s and 70s or 80s or, whatever era you want to select, even the 40s and 50s?
This is a very tough topic. I've thought about this for a long time. And I think, I don't even know where to start on this. But basically, if a driver has talent and they're born in a certain era, they adapt to that era.
Yep.
It's like if you were born in the forest and
Where are you going with this, Aaron?
no. If you're born in the forest and that's all you know, you'll be able to survive in the forest. It's the same thing. If you're born in the 60s, you learn about the technology, you learn about the cars, how to drive them. It's the same thing. I think the only thing that would really weed drivers out would be, some drivers today, maybe they couldn't handle what they had to deal with in the 60s. It could have weeded some people out. But then again, there are some drivers that maybe didn't have the opportunities today because they don't have the money. And back in the, 60s, 70s, even 80s, it didn't matter as much. So maybe they would have shined more and we would have had we would have developed some new champions that we never would have thought would have been champions.
So let me just ask this a slightly different way. We take AJ Foyt, who is arguably the greatest driver of his time.
Of all time.
Let's not get into that yet.
Mario.
For sure.
AJ.
Okay.
Where is it?
Between the two of those, they're
You're
two
not
of the
gonna say
greatest drivers of all time. Certainly the greatest in their era, in their element. We're going to take them. We're going to pluck them out and put them into this year's Daytona 24-hour. So you've got AJ Foyt racing in the Ganassi car alongside Scott Dixon. Mario's racing in the Wayne Taylor car alongside Elio Castroneves. Do you think AJ and Mario in their prime could keep up at the same level?
Mario Andretti 100%. Mario Andretti proves
AJ,
that.
yes, too.
Because Mario still drives cars today, so...
I'm going to make this argument, and this is a total what if. You know how Ganassi's car got the flat tire at the end of the race?
Yeah.
If AJ was driving that car, that flat tire would not have happened.
Why not?
He would have felt it, and he would have backed off. Just like he did in his prime back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
That made me think of, if you watch the Chili Bowl live stream, Scott Bowery was talking about, first off, he's known Pernelli Jones for like 30 years, but he was saying he was driving once with Pernelli. Pernelli was driving, and Pernelli said, Scott, I can tell you when something in the car is going to break before it happens.
I think that's something that, you say that AJ would have noticed it, but I guarantee you that other drivers in their prime will still tell you the same thing. Something's wrong. I need to back off.
Right.
That exists. That's just part of being in the car.
And I think there's some people that have more of a knack for than others.
Certainly.
My argument against that is nowadays, because cars are so much more reliable than what they were nowadays, is that sixth sense is not as big of a deal. So you can be a successful racing driver and not have that, extra sense of, oh, this car, there's something that's about to go wrong in this car. Whereas the guys of the yesteryear, they had to feel their cars.
And I think it's very, another point to bring up is a lot of those guys drove so many different cars. One night they're racing dirt at the fairgrounds, the next night they're racing the Indy 500.
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't happen today for multiple reasons.
No, it doesn't.
And I think that added to their talent level for
But
sure.
the fact that, Scott Dixon can go out in mid-Ohio and he needs to feel how to save the gas. It's all in his feel, his foot.
Right.
He has that same feel. I don't think that skill has gone away. That's just a skill of being a race car driver at the top level. If we were making this argument over what I'd call a gentleman driver in the IMSA series right now, I could give it say a gentleman driver doesn't have that same feel. But Renger is there leading or getting ready to lead the Daytona 24 with 8 minutes to go in a position to win as a defending champion. If you're telling me he didn't feel as soon as something went wrong, if it was an instantaneous failure, there's nothing he could do.
Right, and a lot of it has to do with the car. And if you think about, like, a great example of this, 2003, who won the IndyCar championship?
Scott Dixon.
And then you remember what happened 3 years after that? Dixon didn't win anything. I think his first win after that was 2005 or 6. But anyway, my point is people always say
Dylan Weldon won the championship in 2005.
Right, in 2004 was Tony Kanaan. But my point is there was 2 or 3 years Dixon didn't win a race. And people were like, oh, what happened to Dixon? He's not a good driver anymore. No, he's still a good driver, but there's other things that are kind of in the equation that, you may not think about, like the car, team chemistry. It's kind of the same thing. There's some things you can't control.
Yeah, but there's the other example to your question. If we take Scott Dixon, who is the best driver in IndyCar right now.
Arguably the best driver
period?
At all.
And I feel like when you're dealing with those drivers that are on the top of the Scott Dixons, the Will Powers, the Sebastian Bourdais, you put them in a car in the 70s or 80s, they would have been right up there. I have no problem saying that.
There would be that's what everyone talks about is the physicality of it. Mm-hmm. You have to muscle the car. AJ would not fit into a current generation car. No. But Scott Dixon, I think, is a great example where Scott Dixon strives to be the best at literally everything he does. They get a new piece of equipment at Pit Fit Gym where all the IndyCar drivers train. Scott Dixon has the record and will keep that record indefinitely. How many drivers have you heard frustrated that Scott Dixon broke their records at Pit Fit or something else?
A lot, yeah.
So, a driver is going to be the best. If they're the best, they're going to be the best no matter what they're put in.
And I think if you get Will Power with those crazy eyes and you put him in a Coyote, he probably would have won Indy as many times as Foyt.
So my question is the driving style required to drive modern cars versus cars of the past. I feel like cars of the past, you had to kind of nurse them to the finish.
Oh, the driving style was completely different.
It was a fine line between nursing the car to the finish, whereas nowadays I feel like it's a sprint race from flag to flag. So could these drivers that are tuned into sprint racing is essentially
they would have. So if they would have grew up in there, they would have adapted to, like I said. But if you so put it this way,
would they have been capable of adapting?
So if you take Scott Dixon today, and you just put him in a time machine and send him back to the '60s, he's not going to be real quick right off the bat because it's completely different. I think that's a better way to look at it.
I'd actually challenge that and say Scott Dixon would be fine with that. You talk about how drivers today need to be on a sprint race, giving 100% the entire time. That's kind of a new iteration in racing in these endurance races especially. Back in the day, if you could drive 80% consistently for 24 hours, you were probably going to win the race. Now you have to give 100%. So you're telling him he's got to back off 20% and just take it easy?
And that's where the argument is.
So we take Lewis Hamilton, we put him in a time machine, and we send him to what year?
1967.
Indy 500?
No, the 24 Hours of Daytona.
There we go.
But or the 500.
I would feel very confident saying Lewis Hamilton would not be the top 10.
See, part of me is thinking,
out of the 50 cars that are competing,
these modern drivers,
prototype, he'll be in the top 10.
If he can keep the car together. And that's kind of where I am not sure is.
They don't have power steering.
Modern guys are used to 100%, just all out, 100%. So I don't know.
It's still important to say, like, F1, I did hear that I think it was Lewis Hamilton, but sometime in the past 2 years during the race, he lost like 8 pounds during the race. So F1 drivers are still very good athletes.
All racing drivers are.
And they will. I think a handful of the drivers would adapt without a problem. That's
I think the all-time greats will be the all-time greats no matter what era you were to put them in, what car you were to put them in, what conditions you put on them. I don't see any reason why they would not be successful at their own game, because the whole point of being the best is constantly adapting to the new circumstances.
Exactly.
I think that's another good example of Michael Schumacher. when he first came into the sport, he was really the first one in Formula One that was into fitness and personal trainers and understanding all of that. And now every driver in Formula One has a personal trainer. IndyCar, they have gyms, personal trainers there. They watch their diets more than they ever would have back in AJ's day.
And I'll speak on this on behalf of Jacob. For motocross racing, that was a big thing too. Back in the when did fitness start becoming the thing in motorsport?
I'd say the
motocross.
90s.
Yeah,
Jeremy McGrath, I think, was
Yeah.
the one that kind of turned it into a thing, and it was definitely Ricky Carmichael that made it the norm for the industry.
the GOAT.
Yeah. But again, these drivers from yesteryear, faced with today's challenges and circumstances, could, just being 100% the whole time.
Well, then I'll challenge back for the case of argument here. Your beloved AJ Foyt. Do you think he could give up his steak for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Give up his ice creams in the garage in the pit area?
What do you give up as Charlie Brown's breakfast?
To go on a diet, have a wedge of lettuce for lunch, and then jump in the car?
Yes. If
He would have
what it-
had to. He wouldn't have had a choice.
If
That's the
what it
bottom
took
line.
To win, if that's what it took to win,
That's fair.
that's what he would do.
Yeah.
But it's AJ Foyt's skill sets, because AJ Foyt was known for preserving his car so that he was there at the end of the race.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, that's no longer an issue.
To finish first, you still have to finish. That's
Yeah.
always going to be the rule.
But like what I'm saying is nowadays, that's not an issue anymore. Like your car is basically guaranteed to be there at the end.
Your car is less likely to have something like an engine failure that it might have had.
So drivers like AJ Foyt, where one of his strengths was preserving the car through the end of the race, that's not necessarily like a skill set that's in high demand anymore.
Right, and also another part of that is how would AJ Foyt have dealt with all the engineering and all the technology involved now with people telling him how to do different things?
He was an engineer.
He wouldn't be working on his own car. Exactly.
He would.
That's where I want to.
If you transplant him into this era, he would be working on his own car.
That's where I want to counter here. The mental game you're talking about with managing your engine, managing the car longevity, that part of the mental game is out. But the new mental game now is how do you stay consistent, stay focused, stay targeted for 200 laps around Indy, 24 hours around Daytona. You have to be mentally just as sharp and focusing on maybe not the engine noises, but hitting every apex. It's a different mental game, but it's still a mental chess game they have to play for the entire race.
So do you think, so we're going to take a pool of drivers, modern drivers and vintage drivers. Do you think any of them would have adapted, if you put them in a different time, that they would have figured it out and been just as successful?
I say across the board, 100% of the drivers would have adapted and been successful.
Yeah, because to be able to drive the cars now, and for, if someone says, oh, they're not a good driver. I mean, if they're out there driving to speeds of 240 mile an hour and, not crashing, they're a good driver.
See, I'm going to have to
So they're gonna be
disagree with
able
you
to
guys, because back in the day, the guys had to basically design and build their own cars.
They didn't have to.
And they were every bit as much of a mechanic and an engineer.
They didn't all do that.
No, there were certainly
Actually-
drivers that were hired.
Pretty much all of the successful ones were. They knew how to build a car.
Did Jim Clark build his car?
Yeah. He didn't actually build his car, but he knew how to build a car.
Well, hold up. How do you know he knew how to?
He was involved with the development. Lotus's
As
development.
every single driver is. They go up
Yeah.
through rigorous testing, come back in, give the engineers feedback, tweak it, tune it.
Whereas today's drivers, they just kind of jump in the car and they go, and then the engineers ask them questions as they're going, and that's that.
Right, but they ask them questions to help the driver tune the car.
And I think Bobby Unser said that Gordon Johncock didn't know what was going on with his car.
But what I'm saying,
And Gordon Johncock was pretty successful, Jacob.
he was, but I still think that you had to have a different skill set back in the day.
But it can be taught. There's things that drivers today have to deal with that they didn't have to deal with and vice versa, and you learn it because you got that talent. Like Calvin was saying, if you got the fire, you got it. The all-time greats are still going to be the all-time greats.
So you guys will go on the note that
Are we closing this hot take out?
I don't think we have anything more to debate. I think you guys.
Okay,
you and
Jacob
Calvin
Smith. Would modern drivers be equally successful driving cars of previous eras and vice versa? Yes or no?
No.
Yes.
And I am going to say, I'm a tiebreaker here. I'm going to say yes.
So, well, I'm outvoted.
Wait,
Finally.
Does that mean you lose
can't say-
something?
That was the whole goal with this.
No, we're just
That
debating this.
winning streak is gone.
So, all of those watching and listening, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Aaron, how can they get a hold of us and share your thoughts?
Well, you can comment
this hot
on the
take.
YouTube channel. And while we're on that, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. Send us a message on YouTube. Emails in the description, pitstoppowerhour@gmail.com. Go to our website, race92.com. And I will add on race92.com. You can buy many great shirts like this one right here. Yes, this is a plug. And this is part of our what collection?
The Driver Threads collection. And that shirt that you're wearing is loosely based off of a uniform worn by a guy. His name might have be kind of popular.
Who do you think you are?
Andretti, potentially.
Yeah.
Also, how do you find us on Instagram?
Race92 Racing.
At Race92 Racing.
How do you find us on Twitter?
At Race92 Racing.
There you go. And if you want to buy a shirt, you can use a special promo code.
What's that, Calvin?
Podcast 10. Use the code Podcast 10 on the Race 92 website. Aaron and Jacob will give up 10% of their profits so you can have a discount.
And can you pile that up against other potential discounts?
Yep. Our good buddy, Mr. David Land, has a YouTube channel. David Land on YouTube. Check him out. And you will also see him mention another promo code you can use.
So go check out David Land's YouTube channel, and he will give you another discount code to use.
And he will give up 10% of his money.
All righty. So is that it?
I think
I think you know what time it is.
All right. I think it's time for everyone's favorite. Aaron, take it away.
Now it's time for the Pit Stop Challenge. Average IndyCar pit stop takes an average of 10 seconds, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Who cares? But I have devised 2, potentially 3 questions. And ideally, we have 10 seconds to answer it. Best 2 out of 3 wins.
Hey, Aaron, who's currently undefeated right now?
Jacob Smith.
That's right.
All right, I got my questions here. Are we ready?
sure.
Mr. Danica, are you ready?
I am ready.
No pressure now.
Who won?
Danica.
You got to wait till I'm done. Who won the 1996 IRL Championship?
Buzz Calkins. Bud is here.
You get half of it. That's half of it. I don't know if I want to make this a 2-parter. Calvin, you can come in.
The other half was Scott Sharp, was it not?
No.
Maybe you're off.
Billy Boat.
Nope. Now you got me second check. I'm making sure I'm typing stuff correctly.
Greg Ray.
I mean, technically, he got half of it, so he kind of gets a point.
Yeah.
So the 1996 was they had a co-winner.
Ooh.
So it was Buzz Calkins. Oh wait, I messed up. It was I had Scott Goodyear. It's Scott Sharp.
I was going to say.
So you're tied.
We each get half a point on that one?
Sorry about that. I made a mistake on that. Yeah, I just saw the Scott, and I wasn't thinking. You made me second guess myself. So yeah, Buzz Calkins and Scott Sharp. So
Co-winners?
So
you're co-winners right now.
we need a second question, apparently.
A tiebreaker.
Well, we have 3 questions, if you remember correctly. All right.
We weren't supposed to get half points, though. That's kind of
What year was the first automobile race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
1909.
Yep. So
Boom!
So you have
1.5.
1.5 and you have a half.
I have a half.
Oh, man. So if you get this one.
You're going to need to come up with a fourth question on the fly.
Ooh. All righty. I don't think either one of you are going to get this. What was the first year that they rewarded someone at the Indy 500 with Rookie of the Year?
1943.
Good guess. Keep going.
No.
I
1951.
I believe
52, 53.
You got it. It was 52.
I was going to say it was in the early 50s, but I couldn't have gotten an exact year.
I'll let Calvin redeem. I'll give Calvin.
Who won the race in 1952?
I was going to say who was the Rookie of the Year. If Calvin can get that, we're going to the tiebreaker. He deserves it.
Rookie of the Year in 52?
Vukovic.
No.
What?
You're probably not even got. You probably don't even know who this is.
No, I definitely don't know who this is.
I have no idea on this one.
Art Cross.
I would never have gotten
I've
that.
actually heard that name before,
Yeah.
but I would not have gotten that. Who won the race in 1952?
Was it Parsons?
No.
Billy Vukovic?
No.
52.
52.
Wasn't Schweikert?
That was 55.
Oh.
You are getting to a part of my Indy 500 knowledge that gets very cloudy very quickly.
You're going to know.
But believe it or not, I was not alive for that race, so...
None of us were.
52.
It's... When I say it, you're going to...
Just say it.
Troy Ruttman.
Oh, the youngest driver to win the Indy 500.
At the time.
How old was he?
And still is.
22.
He's still the youngest driver to win, is he not?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
But a certain young Mr. Colton Herta could take that away from him this year.
Absolutely.
We're just going to have to wait and see. So I'm still undefeated.
Yes, you are.
You know, at this point, people might just think I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure something out.
Calvin, you're not trying very hard.
I have told Aaron if he makes the question about Danica, there is a very good chance I will get it right.
I'm tempted just to give him a Danica question just so we can get that out of his system so he stops saying it.
But if it's right once, there's a good chance that
We'll make a rule. There's only going to be one Danica question ever said on this podcast.
I don't like that.
Calvin, you just got to read a little bit more.
I prefer one Danica question per episode. I might have a shot.
Just read some more, Calvin.
Yep, that's all you got to do.
Like the rest of us race nerds, just start reading some books.
Well, I think that wraps up the Pit Stop Challenge.
I think it does, and so I am undefeated. 5-0 now at this point.
All right, Jacob, stop rubbing it into Calvin and take us home.
All righty. We don't have any new Race 92 products to shamelessly plug.
And this is our co-owner of Race 92 asking me if we have any new products.
You guys already got your shameless plug for the episode. Do we need another one?
Yeah, no, we had the shameless plug for the 24 hours collection.
Yeah, but it's
in
still on
previous
there.
episodes,
So if you want a
if you want to
sports
stock
car,
up before the 24 hours of Le Mans, go for it. You know, they're
Go
still
for
up. And the promo codes, as aforementioned, those are still available. And I think that wraps up this week, guys.
All right, take it home.
Well, that wraps up this week for the Pit Stop Power Hour presented by Race 92. If you like the show, please rate and subscribe. And if you didn't, well, let's just pretend this never happened.
like a bad bumble date. Changed it up.
That's
on
correct, Aaron. Sound good? For the rest of you, we'll see you next week.